Today, we're going to talk about something called Bradley's loop. This is the relationship between how the bladder and the brain and the pelvic floor are related and how they work together. This is also one of the explanations why Kegels should not be done while you're on the toilet peeing. There is a special way that the brain, this is my brain, and the bladder work together. Basically, the bladder starts filling. And as the bladder starts filling, the pelvic floor muscles tighten up a little bit and stay more contracted. As the bladder fills, it sends signals to the brain that it's filling up. So then the brain sends a signal back to the bladder, almost kind of like a cheerleader. Hey, you're doing great, but it's not time to go yet, so just wait, okay? The muscle here, for those of you who want to know, called the detrusor muscle, is a very strong muscle. It's not under your control. It's under the brain's control. Pelvic floor muscles are under your control because they're muscles just like your arm muscles are, that you can control the movements. So, the bladder is still filling. The pelvic floor muscles are still a little bit tightened. The bladder gets more full, says, hey brain, I'm getting pretty full. Okay, the brain sends a signal to this muscle and to the pelvic floor muscles. And here's what it says. All right, it's time to go. So the muscle here squeezes so that the urine can come out, and the pelvic floor muscles relax. The pelvic floor muscles have to relax when, let's try that again. The pelvic floor muscles have to relax when the bladder muscle is squeezing to let the urine out. This muscle doesn't need to squeeze anymore, it relaxes. And when this muscle relaxes, the pelvic floor muscles tighten up again to keep the opening at the bottom of the bladder closed so you don't leak. So knowing that, can you figure out why you should not be doing Kegels while you're peeing? Because it sends a wrong signal to the bladder and the brain. If the bladder's squeezing and you're also squeezing your pelvic floor to do a Kegel, that's the exact opposite of what your brain is trying to tell your bladder to do. It's actually telling the pelvic floor muscles to relax so that the urine can come out. Over time, this can create a fussy bladder, to where the bladder says, well, I really don't know. Am I supposed to be contracting? Am I supposed to be relaxing? What the heck are the pelvic floor muscles doing? I'm just going to do what I want when I want. And it gets really fussy, and it demands all of your attention. And you know exactly what I mean by that, right? To avoid this confusion and a fussy bladder, don't do Kegels while you're on the toilet. There's a lot of better ways we can work on retraining that pelvic floor besides doing Kegels on the toilet. It's an inverse relationship. When the bladder muscle contracts, the pelvic floor muscles should relax. When the pelvic floor muscles tighten up and contract, the bladder muscle is supposed to relax. It's kind of like a coordinated symphony, isn't it? We got to get the timing right, and we have to let things work in the way that the brain is trying to tell them to. Let's work on getting that coordination back.